Dear partners, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is a pleasure for me to welcome you today to this virtual event to launch the new data portal on child marriage. My name is Claudia Cappa, and I have the pleasure of working in the Division of Data, Analytics, Planning and Monitoring at UNICEF. In today's event, we will give you an overview of this new amazing resource that was developed to foster the use of data on this harmful practice. Before doing so, I would like to take a moment to flag that simultaneous interpretation is available today. You need to click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to activate the interpretation services. Again, interpretation is available in French and Spanish. This event is being recorded and participants will receive an email with the recording. Now, let me take a moment to introduce this initiative. The Child Marriage Data Portal is one of the flagship initiatives of the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism. As we know, ending child marriage is a commitment within the Sustainable Development Goals, under Goal 5 of gender equality. Data disaggregated and analyzed to tease out trends and ensure a focus on those who are most affected can help to deliver results and keep governments accountable. For this reason, UNICEF has established the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism. An initiative whose purpose is to call attention to the issue of child marriage and galvanize action by promoting data use in an effort to eliminate the practice. The Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism operates across three main areas: providing the necessary statistical evidence to hold key stakeholders accountable for commitments they've made on policies, strategies, resources, and action; making relevant data and analysis accessible, and raising the visibility of child marriage on global and national agendas, sustaining and expanding commitment and financing. And this is where the new data portal sits, is an attempt to making relevant data and analysis accessible. But the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism also works in a third area of work, supporting national and global convenings to promote data use, demonstrating specific pathways and actions for progress in areas requiring attention and course correction. Through the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism, the development community can engage in a consolidated effort to assess progress. It's a step towards more strategic programming to eliminate this harmful practice. Seeking to build on growing political will to end child marriage, the mechanism can provide clarity on the actions and scope of investments needed to see an end to the practice. Many have contributed to the establishment of the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge the great partnership that is behind the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism. These include members of civil society to regional international organizations, donors, and youth representatives. Many of these partners are with us today, including some of the distinguished panelists that will take the floor later in the panel. And I wanted to show the name of the organizations that are represented in the Strategic Advisory Group of the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism, which include the African Union Commission, the African Union Youth Division, Girls Not Brides, Global Affairs Canada, Global Program to End Child Marriage, the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, the Population Council, the South Asia Initiative to End Violence Against Children, the United Kingdom Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the United Nations Population Fund, and UN Women. We are very grateful to the government of Belgium, Canada, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, as well as Zonta International for their partnership and support for this initiative. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Colleen Murray. Colleen is a statistics specialist in the Data and Analytics section of UNICEF in the Division of Data, Analysis, Planning and Monitoring. And she's the expert who led the development of this new data portal that, of course, counted on the support and the work of a very large team of colleagues within UNICEF and experts outside of UNICEF who lend their expertise and time to develop this resource. Colleen will give you an overview of the portal. Colleen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Claudia, very much. I'm excited to present the Child Marriage Data Portal to all of you today. And in order to present it to you, I'd like to start with a brief video. So please turn your attention to the screen.
Every 3 seconds, a girl under the age of 18 gets married somewhere in the world. This isn't just a statistic. It's a fundamental violation of her human rights. Through the Sustainable Development Goals, the world committed to ending child marriage by 2030. Yet few countries are on track. Experience shows that putting quality data in the right hands can galvanize change, and the new Child Marriage Data Portal aims to do just that. It is the go-to website for the most recent and reliable data on child marriage. It displays how common child marriage is, how many girls and women are affected, and how the situation has changed over time. The Global Trends and SDG Progress page illustrates current global and regional levels of child marriage, comparing them to a decade ago and projecting potential levels by 2030 if trends continue. The Country Profiles page features an interactive globe, allowing users to select a country and delve into the data to understand how and where the practice occurs. The Data Center and Resources page allows users to download datasets and explore publications, tools and partner sites. Stories featured on the blog continue the conversation on this critical issue. Data can light the path to a world without child marriage, serving as a catalyst for informed policies, strategic programming, and the mobilization of resources that shape a future with greater opportunities for girls worldwide. Come explore the Child Marriage Data Portal and join the movement. Ending child marriage, charting brighter futures.
Thank you. So before we move into showing you a live demo of the website itself, I wanted to take a moment and talk a bit about the data that actually feed the data portal. So when we focus on the data that go into the Child Marriage Data Portal, we can ask a couple of questions. For example, what kind of data can I find? So what data are featured on the data portal? What the data portal intends to display are data at the global, regional, national, and subnational level, and they intend to illustrate how commonly the practice occurs, how many girls and women are affected, who faces the highest risk, and whether the situation is changing over time. The data come from the UNICEF global databases, and as custodian for monitoring progress towards SDG 5.3.1, which measures progress towards the elimination of child marriage worldwide, UNICEF is responsible for maintaining this global database on child marriage, and this involves consulting with national governments and conducting quality assurance of the data sources. So the data that you'll find on the Child Marriage Data Portal is fully aligned with the UNICEF global database, which is fully aligned with the databases used for global SDG reporting. And how often will it be updated? We intend to keep the database updated at least annually, which will happen in concert with the SDG reporting cycle. So we are launching now using data as of the 2023 SDG reporting, and we already look forward to having an update early next year for the 2024 reporting cycle. So with that, I'd like to give you a demonstration of what you can find on the site. I'm going to click over to the website itself, and please give me one moment to change the sharing of my screen so that I can show you what I'm looking at. Okay, So here we have the Child Marriage Data Portal. It can be found at childmarriagedata.org. You can see this URL here, and we can also drop that URL in the chat so that you can also navigate yourself as I click through and show you some of the features that you'll find. The data portal includes a number of sections, including one that illustrate global trends and progress towards achieving the SDGs at the global, regional, and national level. We have a section on country profiles, which I'll walk you through shortly, where you can look in more detail at the situation for each individual country. There's a data center and resources where you will be able to download full data sets of all of the data that inform the site, as well as find some resources about things like relevant journal articles, tools, and news and updates. And there is a blog as well where there are some stories about child marriage data. I'd like to get started by exploring this first section on global trends and SDG progress. And this section of the website will help us answer questions like, where is child marriage most common in the world? Who is most affected? How many girls and women are affected worldwide? So if, for example, I wanted to find which region of the world has made the most progress towards ending child marriage, this is where I would look. The section overall tries to answer, again, this general question: are we on track to end child marriage by 2030? How much remains to be achieved? Our main visualization that you can see here is showing us the prevalence of child marriage, which we can tell in detail if we want to look at the detailed notes on this chart. We can see is the percentage of young women aged 20 to 24 who were first married or in union before age 18. Please keep in mind that as you explore the site, if you have any questions about the data that is being presented, you can always look at these little question mark icons to get more details. Here, overall, we're seeing the prevalence of child marriage worldwide. Globally, we see the levels at 19%, though this level varies quite a bit across regions. And if I want to answer this question that I had posed about which region has made the most progress, I may want to slide this chart to look at the difference between the level 10 years ago, shown in gray, and then the level today in purple. I can see here that Central and Southern Asia is the region that has had the largest drop in prevalence over that period. You can also see there are other regions of the world where the difference between the level 10 years ago and today is so small that these dots are overlapping. I can look next to see what could happen to these levels in the future if the same rate of progress were achieved between today and 2030. So I can also slide over to 2030 and see how the world might look if the world were to keep moving at the same rate of progress that we've seen. We can also accelerate that progress a bit and see what that would look like. So there's a lot of options to click around here and see what else we can learn. Now, even before we go to the country profile section, I want to point out here that we can learn a bit about what's happening in the countries that make up each of these regions by clicking further into this graph. So if, for example, I want to see not just the average that's happening in sub-Saharan Africa, but what's happening in each one of the countries, I can click on the region and it will expand to show me all of the countries in that region, and I can look at the same data. So here, for example, seeing this trend over the last 10 years for each one of the countries, I could pick up, right, that there has been great progress in countries like Ethiopia has this, very large decline. I also can see that there's really a very wide range of levels of child marriage across countries. We have here, for example, Rwanda with a quite low prevalence, below 10%, compared to Niger up here at over 70%. So there's a lot that we can explore by clicking around in these charts. We also are able to look at the level of child marriage before age 15 instead of just child marriage by age 18. And lastly, what we focused on so far is the prevalence, or the percentage of girls who are affected, but we can also take a look at what this means in terms of absolute numbers of girls and women affected. So if we want to see which regions are home to the largest numbers of child brides, then we can switch our view this way And we can see this, total number of just over 640 million worldwide, with the largest number clustered in Central and Southern Asia. Now, I can scroll down here to look at who is most at risk of child marriage. So we know, of course, that child marriage does not pose an equal risk to girls of different backgrounds. We can see that across regions, the level of risk, which in this chart is represented by the size of the circles, is quite different depending on the background of girls. So in general, we can see here that the risk in rural areas, which is represented by the top line of dots, is quite a bit higher than the level of risk in urban areas. We can make similar comparisons by wealth and level of education as well. So next, I'd like to explore the country profile page. And here we know that that for different data users, they may have different needs. And while some people may be interested in understanding the big global picture for child marriage, others really may be interested in their specific country context and would like to know in great detail about how common child marriage is in their country, maybe how that compares to other neighboring countries, certainly how that situation has changed over time. So I'd like to take a look here. I'll use Bangladesh as an example to try to understand how common is child marriage in Bangladesh and who are the girls in Bangladesh who are most affected. Now, when I select Bangladesh here, I see I get situated within the region where Bangladesh is, which is Southern Asia. So as kind of an introduction into this, I can see that Southern Asia has seen the greatest declines in child marriage compared to other regions, compared to the prevalence that we've seen in the world. We get our bearings here by looking also at the absolute number and prevalence for the region itself. And then within that, we can see each of the individual countries in Southern Asia and compare them to one another. So for Bangladesh itself, here we'll click in a moment, but we can just kind of glance across the neighboring countries to Bangladesh and even see already how the trend that we've seen in child marriage in Bangladesh, which is a declining trend, though still at a relatively high level, compares to other countries that it neighbors with. So we can get kind of a bird's eye view here in this view. Now here we click in and we see the profile itself for Bangladesh. Again, as our broad overview, we can see that there are about 42 million girls and women in Bangladesh who were married in childhood. This equates to a prevalence of 51%. And levels of marriage by 15 are actually also quite high in this country. There's a 15% prevalence, which equates to 22 million girls and women in the country married before age 15. So as I said, those levels are high, and that's a large number of women affected. There is also, I think, quite a positive story that we can see here in terms of the trend over time. Though the prevalence of child marriage in Bangladesh right now stands at about 50%, only a few decades ago it was close to 80%. So this represents a really substantial decline in the practice over time. Again, with this chart here, in terms of exploring the site, we can also switch the view to show us what's happened similarly with marriage by 15. And we also can click open to expand and see the table of data that we've seen in this chart here. And again, I'll remind you that if you have any questions about exactly what is being shown in this chart, that we can click this question mark icon and it will give us some more details about the data. Now, I said I wanted to explore here in Bangladesh who are the girls who are most likely to be affected by child marriage. And this section starts to help me answer that question. So I can see that while the national level of child marriage in the country stands at about 50%, there are some differences by residents, with girls in rural areas more likely to be affected. We also see that there is some disparity between rich and poor in the country. Although it's, I think, worth noting that the fact that even the richest quintile of girls in Bangladesh face prevalence of child marriage of close to 40%, which is remarkably high. And we can similarly look at levels by education, and again can see that the more educated women are, the less likely they are to have been child brides. Though again, these are quite high levels across all segments of society. We can look further to see what differences exist inside of the country, and we can see here that, again, while the national level is around 50%, that there's quite a large disparity with really even doubling from one region to the next of how high the level of risk of child marriage is. So this could help us understand geographically throughout the country, where are the girls who are facing the highest risk. And in this case, we see that they are more concentrated in the western side of the country. Now, if, for example, I'm interested in making some comparisons between Bangladesh and other neighboring countries, I'm able to do so directly here. So I can take a look and select whichever my countries of interest might be to make some comparisons here for some of our key results. So here I can generate a chart that shows me how the trend in prevalence of child marriage in Bangladesh compares. Here I've selected India and Nepal, so I can make that comparison. And then similarly, I can look again at the disparities within the country and compare those directly to the disparities that we see in other countries. Okay, and that more or less concludes our country profile section. There are a couple more areas of the site that I'd like to point out to bring to your attention. First here is our data center and resources. Again, for those of you who have an interest in looking at the data more closely on your own or doing additional analysis, you are able to download the full data set or an executive summary, which is a more focused selection of indicators directly from here. We also can browse some relevant resources about child marriage and can see things like recent journal articles on the topic, some news items, recent relevant publications, tools, and some relevant partner sites. Okay, and lastly, here we have a blog section, which will give a more narrative view of some relevant stories on child marriage, and with a particular focus on the data on child marriage. Now, before wrapping up this demo here, I want to point out a couple more features here. I'd like to point out here that you can, if you're interested in learning more about the Child Marriage Data Portal or the Child Marriage Monitoring Mechanism overall, you're welcome to subscribe to our newsletter, which you can do right here. You also can write us an email directly. Our email address is available here on the site. And while we're always available to answer questions, you also can skim through some of the background information about us and our governance structure, and also you can peruse some frequently asked questions that may already answer some of the questions that you have in mind. And you can find here some detailed technical notes about the data that are presented throughout the site. Okay, now with that, I would like to wrap up the demo portion of this. I think that as you take a moment and poke through the site yourself, I'm sure that you'll come up with questions. So we look forward to discussing what you find on the site, what questions you might have. And for the moment, I'm going to now switch my view back over to this main presentation. So please give me just one moment. Okay, thank you. Are you able to see the slides now? Can someone please confirm for me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, Archana. Okay, so thank you. And with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Nankali Masood, who is UNICEF's Senior Advisor on Harmful Practices and who serves as the Global Coordinator of the UNFPA-UNICEF Global Program to End Child Marriage. Thank you. Over to you, Nankali.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Thanks to you and Claudia for the wonderful introduction. I think many of us, including myself, were super excited to be able to see the presentation, to be able to see the data portal. And I think there can't be a better time for us to be introducing this data portal, especially during this year where we've reached the midpoint on delivering on the SDGs and need to be more and better informed in terms of data as we rush towards that 2030 goal. So really excited to see the data portal, really excited to see the wonderful things that can be done with it. I can't wait to get on and just be able to test out comparisons around different countries. I can't wait to be heading to a particular country and just come in and find out the situation of a country, or maybe to be writing a report and come in. I think it's going to be a really useful contribution to this sector. So thanks so much for that. And now looking forward to all the wonderful discussion. Colleagues, we're moving on to a short panel. And then after that, we're going to be inviting questions and answers for you. So please, if you've got any questions and answers, start to think about them. I have lots of curiosities about the different things that are possible to be done through this panel. So we have a group of very distinguished panel members who you can see on the slide now. I'm going to introduce them one by one, but this is just to give you a sense of who's coming. And for each one, I will introduce them and ask the question for them. So let me start off with Sarah Nichols. She is the High Commissioner of Canada to Mozambique and Eswatini and serves as the Government of Canada's ambassador to Angola. She's had a distinguished career working as an adolescent health, immunization, nutrition, human rights, and governance expert. Ms. Nichols has advised the Canadian government on Canada's feminist international assistance policy, responses to humanitarian crises, and bilateral relations with sub-Saharan African countries. Thanks so much, Sarah, for agreeing to join the panel today. So my question for you is that, Canada has been a leader in advocating for gender equality and the prevention of harmful practices like child marriage worldwide. As we get closer to 2030, the target year for eliminating child marriage per the SDGs, what role do you think data has to play towards meeting this target?
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Nankali. I really appreciate it. And good morning, bonjour, bon dia to everyone here on this call. I see so many people here. It's just really fantastic. And I'm so pleased to join you at this event today to mark the launch of the Child Marriage Data Portal. I'm certain this has been a really big undertaking for the child marriage monitoring mechanism and all those involved. So thank you so much for including me, and thank you for including Canada. Ending CEFM and supporting women and girls affected by it is a priority for Canada, and it's central to our efforts to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Canada is a long-standing advocate for this issue and committed to continuing to work collaboratively with partners across sectors to accelerate and adapt our efforts to end CEFM. I'm especially proud that Canada is a leading and catalytic donor working on this issue, including through our renewed support to the UNFPA-UNICEF Global Program to End Child Marriage announced earlier this year in July in the amount of $35 million over 5 years. It cannot be overstated that reliable data and evidence play a crucial role in our collective efforts to eliminate child marriage, really aligning with Sustainable Development Goal Target 5.3, which aims to eradicate the harmful practice by 2023. And we could see in the demonstration, there's lots of great data to this effect, that the practice of child marriage has declined over the last 2 decades, but that progress has been really uneven. I'm talking to you today from Mozambique, where it's a beautiful, sunny, warm day. I see, Nankali, you look very cozy in your sweater in a colder climate. But here in Mozambique, it's a particularly good illustration of this challenge. Because achieving the elimination will require that we reach the poorest and most marginalized girls. The practice of child marriage is a human rights violation, and it happens in plain sight. which has lifelong consequences for girls, their children, and their children's children. So both catalyzing and caused by a cascade of other rights violations, including multiple other forms of gender-based violence and lack of body autonomy. On the heels of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, it is crucial that we continue to exercise global solidarity as individuals, organizations, and governments. So I'm here as Sarah, I'm here as Global Affairs Canada, I'm here as the Government of Canada to pledge our voice against gender-based violence and child marriage. And I'm understanding that the data helps us to get to know where to pivot next. You know, it's not just where we are now, but what's the next move so that we can focus and strengthen our efforts. To effectively tackle this issue and end CEFN, we must first understand the depth and the breadth of the impact. Without robust data infrastructure, we risk falling short of our commitment to eradicate child marriage by 2030. So let me just emphasize that Canada welcomes this important initiative of the child marriage monitoring mechanism to improve data and evidence on child marriage. And we see this as key to holding stakeholders accountable, which is a big part of the work that we have ahead of us. Galvanizing the political support, improving prevention programming, and helping to support girls and women as we raise awareness of this issue. The Child Marriage Data Portal is a key step towards a future where every child can grow, can learn, and thrive, free from the shackles and the threat of early marriage. I hope that all the people here on this call today can champion the cause of data-driven and evidence-based decision-making, because this is what lies the key to unlocking a world where the rights and dignity of every child are upheld and no one is left behind. So with that, I say thank you, merci, and obrigada.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Really appreciate all the wonderful words you've shared there about the importance of having such a database in terms of advocacy, in terms of improving the programming that we have. We're counting, you said you're Sarah, you said you're Global Affairs Canada. We're also counting on you being an ambassador for the portal. And so as you move around Maputo towards the end of this year and into next year, please share the word, spread the word out there about this database. One of the things that we find, Sarah, is that there's a lot of tools and products that are out there, but there's very limited knowledge. And so we're having this webinar to make people aware, but we're counting on people like yourselves to spread the word as well, especially at country level where it matters most in terms of programming and policy advocacy. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Sarah.
Happy to do so. Thank you.
Brilliant. Moving on to the next panel member, we have Mr. Selesi Tadesse. Mr. Tadesse is the Chief Executive of Women's Rights and Protection at the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs in Ethiopia. For over 25 years, he's been working in youth development and women's empowerment domains. He has served under the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Culture, and at the Ministry of Women, Children, and Youth Affairs. Welcome, Mr. Selesi. Can you hear us? You're muted.
Yes, thank you.
All right, brilliant. Nice to see you, Mr. Selesi. I was in Ethiopia, I don't know if you remember, just a few months ago, and it was great to be able to visit the country and really looking forward to another opportunity to see the good work that you're doing. So thanks for joining us.
Yes, I remember.
Brilliant. Okay. So, Mr. Selesi, Ethiopia has made great strides towards reducing child marriage over the past several decades. How has data helped to enable this progress so far? And how do you see resources like the Child Marriage Data Portal helping you to better reach girls in Ethiopia who remain at risk today and in the future?
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to congratulate on such a pivotal initiative of data portal development and launching, which will have global significance in improving data use and availability and influence the discourse around the effort to end child marriage. It is also an honor for me to participate in such a crucial event, and I would like to express my gratitude on behalf of my ministry and myself. I responded according to the question raised. Indeed, various efforts have been made to reduce child marriage in Ethiopia. These include creating institutional arrangements, organizing a national alliance, developing a roadmap to provide guidance and direction, developing policy frameworks, creating coordination platforms, and so on. The strategic direction and the roadmap were then implemented. The massive change happened in Ethiopia related to the ending of child marriage, FGM and GBV, around 1997 to 2000. This was because there was a comprehensive national survey done by the National Committee on the Eradication of Harmful Traditional Practice Committee. The survey has shown the profile of child marriage and FGM across the country and the prevalence, the pervasive of the situation. That has created a huge mobilization of government organizations, CSO, and NGOs to build momentum around the issue and joint evidence advocacy. The issue was better framed in light of the progressive Ethiopian constitution and women policy. This has led to the strengthening of legal policy framework, including the revision of the Family Code in 2000 and the Criminal Code in 2004. The Eagle Dam data and the 2000 EDHS played a critical role in making the issue an agenda and bringing stakeholders around the table. We are speaking about the change because we have the data that shows us clearly the success which need to celebrate and give us energy. On the other hand, the high prevalence and the rate of acceleration required from us to achieve SDG created the urgency and refresh the commitment of key actors to collaborate and bring meaningful change. This, coupled with the commitment made by our government at the Global Governance Summit, led us to crucial decision of the government to develop and roll out an evidence-based national costed roadmap to child marriage and FGM. Currently, the ministry, with the support from partners, including UNICEF, is undertaking an expenditure tracking and implementation assessment of the costed roadmap to assess the national level progress to date. This is because we need data to make any program and policy level decision. Generally, data served as tools for monitoring, tracking development, and assessing implementation. The status also helps us to comprehend the efforts made by different sectors. Pinpoint challenge and strengths. The data supports managerial decision-making and action. Furthermore, data was utilized in the development of the roadmap, particularly in the design of several programs aimed at decreasing child marriage. Additionally, the information was initially utilized to acknowledge and learn about the contribution made by other actors. Acknowledging the importance of data and evidence, the ministry, in collaboration with development partners, including UNICEF, UNFPA, members of the National Alliance to End Child Marriage and FGM, and others, have been working on various initiatives. These initiatives are aimed at enhancing our capacity for data and evidence generation, establishing a streamlined system, data use culture, and practice. Some of the great tasks include the development of National Gender Information System, CPIMS. Currently, we have launched the new initiative to strengthen our national data monitoring, learning, and evaluation system, and also the gender equality management information system. So I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Selese. It's so nice to be able to hear Mr. Tadesse, it's so nice to hear the great words that you have and how data is driving the response within Ethiopia. I think there's a lot to learn about all the good work that's going on there, and we hope that others can have more and more opportunities to be able to learn from that. Colleagues, just to tell you that for those who had tried to get onto the chat before and were not able to do so, the chat is up and running now. For those who have posted questions, the Q&A, thank you. Please carry on to post any questions that you have. And I know that both Claudia and Colleen are actively responding to those questions already, but we will have a Q&A session. So also look forward to that. I saw somebody asking about the link to the portal, childmarriagedata.org. Colleen has provided it in the Q&A. I think it's also been posted in the chat box. So if you want to kind of go off into that site and start looking in there and raise any questions during this session, please feel free to do that. Okay, We're on to the next panel member for this session, Faith Mwangi Powell. Colleagues, is Faith logged on? I can't see her myself, and so I just want to double check.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm here, Nankali,
Hi,
I'm here.
Faith. Nice
Hi.
to see you.
Yes.
Good morning. I see you're as warmly dressed up as I am.
Absolutely. It's so freezing in London. It's amazing. Sometimes you don't believe how cold it can get.
How
It's
cold it
so
can
cold.
get. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we both have the same idea. We're in sweaters. We're not joking
Yes.
this
No,
morning
it's too
in this
cold.
weather. So welcome, Faith. Colleagues, Faith Mwangi Powell is the Chief Executive Officer of Girls Not Brides. Before joining Girls Not Brides, Faith served as the Global Director for the Girl Generation, an initiative working to galvanize the Africa-led movement to end female genital mutilation. Faith is a public health expert with more than 20 years experience in leading, managing, and implementing complex public health programs in Africa. Thank you so much, Faith, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
So, Faith, my question to you, Girls Not Brides represents a diverse global network of partners working towards the same goal of ending child marriage. What demands for data do you most often see from your member organizations? And what value do you see tools like the Child Marriage Data Portal in meeting these needs? Over to you, Faith.
Thank you so much, Nankali. Thank you, UNICEF, and every partner, the Global Monitoring Mechanism, for inviting me to be part of this conversation. I also appreciate that Girls Not Brides has been a partner in this journey, developing this portal. So we are very excited to see it live, to see it is come alive. So thank you, and my big congratulations to everybody who has been involved and behind that work. Even just seeing the website, it's so exciting to see the many things we can do about it. So I'm so excited to be here. But I want to echo all the panelists who went before me, how the importance of data in ending child marriage in the work we do. Data is one of the big signal on the direction of travel. Are we winning? Are we losing? What can we do? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? And if I can just say one feature I really loved is the countdown of a girl is married every 3 seconds. So we can actually count how many girls have been married since we are having this conversation. So I really love that and many other features on the website. And it's something I'm looking forward to exploring a little bit further. And I want to acknowledge even all the donors in Canada for your leadership. We really appreciate that, all of us as stakeholders working to end child marriage. But come back to your question, Nankali, I think you know also Girls Not Brides have a global atlas, and that is one of the most visited sites in our website. So this is just an acknowledgement how data is important. So the things people look for in data and the things people will be excited about looking at this portal is the country preference. People need to know what is happening in their own countries. In fact, I really loved the Bangladesh kind of demonstration because it's even showing regional, what's happening at each region. So that is one of the things people want to know. While people appreciate the global nature, the preference data, people also want to know the demands we hear people asking for is how do I know what's happening in my country? And also, how do I know what is happening in my region or in my community? So that is amazing and that is great. The other things people want to have is greater accessibility of data. I saw it was easy to navigate as Colleen was showing us. So that greater access is something people ask for. Importantly, people want to know, what does this mean for us? Are we winning? Are we losing? What more do we want to be able to do? But as we look at it, it's very important that people are able to access this portal, especially people who are accessing their information online through their mobile phones. That is absolutely important, that people even with low data, with low bandwidth, are able to access this information. So the easy access is something people want to ask for. The other issue people ask for, because as you know, Girls Not Bride is diverse, as we said, we have members from across 100 regions, it's language. Can we access this in our own language? French, Spanish, can we be able to access and translate so that we are able to navigate that in our own languages? That's what people ask for. They also ask, how do we use this data? What is it you are asking us to do? Now we see the data. What can I do with it? And what are the tools I can use? For example, one of the great things people ask for is, are there briefing tools I can download so that I can take that when I'm meeting somebody in the government? I can just take a page and say, this is what is happening in my country, because that is the tools they want to leave on the hearts of the stakeholders. So the value of this data is that it offers credibility of the issue we are dealing with. It offers credibility to show, yes, this is an issue we are working on and it needs a solution. And it also raises the urgency of the enormity of the problem we are dealing with. So that is the value of this. But also it's the value of that people can see progress. I think there is nothing as good as when you can see progress, whether it's a success we are seeing in Ethiopia or in Asia, and then asking deeper, what has led to that success so that we can learn from our own communities. But I also think what is also important is the resources, which is not just the data itself. The resources which you have added at one of the pages is important because it helps people to analyze and to be able to look at what they can do themselves. And that self-analysis is absolutely important so that people know where is it I'm winning. But I think it also becomes like a unifier. I think data is such a great unifier because we are all working to the same conversation. We are all working to the same direction of travel. We are all using the same statistics. We are not contradicting each other. That is the value because we need to be united. And Nankali, you said something so important that we are midway through the SDGs, and having an opportunity like a measure to show us how far are we from that goal of ending child marriage and how much more. I like the feature about the accelerated. If we accelerate our work, what difference would it make? Because this is this difficult work and we always need to be inspired by something. So when we look at that and we see what change we can make, it becomes a source of inspiration for us. So I want to really congratulate UNICEF and Global Monitoring Mechanism for this great portal because it's such a game changer. I think that's what I would call it in the work we are doing. But it's also a place where we can all come and feel like we have credible data. We've always relied on yourselves to offer the data you do so regularly, and I think it's become a source of really us understanding what are the global trends. And it's also a big fundraising tool because we know this work cannot be done without resources. And I always talk about resources because it's important that we show this is the problem we are trying to solve. So for me, I'm excited, and I know you asked us to be ambassadors, so I'm going to be a great ambassador for this tool. We are going to link it with our own global atlas so that people can also go and see the detail, the depth, the comparisons, and the change. So thank you so much. It's such an addition, and I congratulate everyone for the launch of this incredible tool. Thank you, Nankali.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Faith. It's always nice to hear, your reflections. I was thinking as you're talking about all the different things, one thing I think that was missing is it's also good to compete with each other. You're going along the way, and then it also shows you, how about my neighbor? Are they also moving as fast? And give each other some energy and some competition as well as we head towards that 2030 road.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you for saying that you'll also be an ambassador. We know that Girls Not Brides has a huge network out there, Faith. And so as you move around, as you communicate, I know that this is the end of the year and many of us are sending off end of year messages to our different partners and urging them on. Please do include this as something that they can use as a key resource as they plan for next year, as they close the year and look at where they've reached and how far we still need to go. We hope that it really becomes a practical tool for everyone who's working within this space. Thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next panel member, who's Shima. I saw Shima coming on, and then Shima, there you are. Nice to see you, Shima. So for colleagues who don't know, who normally work within this space, this is Shima, who I'm going to formally introduce, but informally or formally, this is also my new boss, who we're really excited to have come on board. Shima is the new Director of Child Protection in the Program Group of UNICEF, I don't know for how long we'll keep saying she's new, but I know within this space for child marriage, we haven't had her join one of these events. And so I'm introducing her so that everybody can know. Shima's UNICEF career spans both development and complex humanitarian contexts. She has been UNICEF's representative in Iraq and has been working in many countries, including Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Ghana, India, and Somalia. She has led programs which focused on making sustainable changes in systems, policy, and service delivery for children and women. So Shima, we have a quick question for you. Please excuse me. Some reason my question, but sorry Shima, colleagues, I printed something out in but the question has been cut off in my document. Please forgive me. But Shima, we know that UNICEF works together with UNFPA to lead the global program to end child marriage, advancing efforts in 12 of the highest prevalence and highest burden countries. For our colleagues and partners working in these countries and beyond, what value do you see a tool like the Child Marriage Data Portal offers for their programs? Over to you, Shima.
Thank you, Nankali. Thank you for the introduction, and hello to everyone. It is my first time on this and so excited to be working with you all. Extremely excited about this data portal as well, because this is really going to be a game changer. Both for, for UNFPA and UNICEF working together, it has been exciting getting here. But I know for all of us who are working on child marriage, this is going to be a game changer, as I said. Nankali, to go back specifically to your question, this data portal is really, that's why I'm so excited. It's really going to be pivotal in steering progress towards the SDGs. And particularly, of course, SDG 5.3. And how? How is it going to do that? It's going to allow us to assess, to track, and to direct those efforts effectively. We're no longer going to have to guess, which we haven't been doing so much. We have based it on some evidence, but now we're going to have watertight and access easily to this data. So this investment that the global program and all the partners have made is going to serve as the backbone for informed decision making. It's going to enable policymakers, organizations, and communities as well, right, going down to the community level to identify what are those priority areas, how do we measure progress, and where do we allocate the resources efficiently? I think this is why it's going to be really, really important. And then, I think the timing is great because it couldn't have been at a better time. This is the year we celebrated the midpoint on delivering on the global goals. We still have, it's a glass half full or a glass half empty, but we still have some time to get there. And so it's going to be, this is going to be extremely useful in taking us in that direction for the global program. And I do expect for other programs as well, this asset will facilitate the identification of vulnerable populations and evidence-based. So it'll help us to ensure that we leave no one behind. It will help us to monitor trends, to evaluate the impact of the interventions, to ensure that the efforts are targeted where they're most needed. It will allow us to change course as well if we find that that's not the way or the direction we should be in. So the other part that I think is extremely important for all of us, for all of us working in this area, is that it will encourage transparency, accountability, and more collaboration amongst all the stakeholders so that we foster a shared understanding of the challenges and solutions vital for achieving the SDGs on a global scale. It's going to allow us to be a little more open, to be able to openly discuss these. So I'm, as you can see, very excited. Thank you, Nankali.
Thank you so much, Shima. Really like all the words that you shared with us. We're asking everybody who's been on this panel to please promise to be a champion, an ambassador for the data portal. I know with you coming on new, you've got lots of people meeting up with you to introduce themselves, etc. And so please take that opportunity that with every introduction, we're going to bring a card to your office to say, and by the way, do you know about this portal? Just so you can be able to spread the word. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it. So moving on to the next panel member, colleagues, is Fernanda. Fernanda, I saw your camera coming on and then it went off. Please put it on so that I can see that you're there. Great to be able to see you. So Fernanda, this morning as I was going through the notes preparing to introduce you, I read the title of the organization that you work with as an advocacy officer, and then I stopped. Swahili is my mother tongue, is my first language. There is no way I'm going to be able to say that in the right way. So please, can I ask you to share the name of your organization? Because I will murder it with my Swahili.
Yes, of course. It's Elige Red de Jóvenes por los Derechos Sexuales y Reproductivos.
Brilliant. Thank you. You can see that there's absolutely no way I could have been able to say that, but welcome, Fernanda. She's an advocacy officer. I'm only going to say at Elige and looking for colleagues to please look at the slide to see the full title for that organization. So Fernanda is a youth advocate. She defines herself as a decolonial feminist. She's currently working with a youth-led organization that belongs to the Latin American and Caribbean Youth Network for Sexual and Reproductive Rights, REDLAC, which works for the rights of young people from a feminist perspective. Thanks so much, Fernanda, for joining us this morning. Now, Fernanda, over to the question that we have for you. We know from data, research, and experience that child marriage does not pose the same risk to all girls around the world. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the data shows us that girls who are poor face a much higher risk of becoming child brides than girls who are richer. In your advocacy work, how has data been helpful in speaking on behalf of the most affected populations? Over to you, Fernanda.
Thank you so much, Nankali. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm going to switch into Spanish because it's easier for me and take advantage of the translation. So if you want to change, that would be
aprovechar la.
Thank you so much. Y bueno, contestando en español.
Thank you, and answering your question in English. Thank you for this invitation, and thanks for being able to represent my organization, because it's very important to be able to see ourselves, to listen to ourselves, to learn from our colleagues in different parts of the world. So actually, some of the things I've been thinking to share with you have already mentioned by the other panelists, by Shelley. So it is a great honor to be here to talk about the importance of this portal, because for all of us present today, this portal will be extremely important for our work in different areas. So I would like to mention that, and answering your questions, all the different interventions that we came across make us feel different situations according to class, race, migration status, health conditions that we face every day. So following this line of thought is very helpful, and it would be helpful to be able to reach to every region, to discuss with different people and to learn from them. So that is not possible because of costs or time. So that's why I think that this tool is so useful to learn about situations in different populations across our regions. So I think the intention is not to talk to this, the intention is not to talk to these people, but to work based on the information that has been created with this data portal and these methodologies. So I think it's really helpful to rely on this data. I also believe that data provide an important support in our work with different countries, because it's very important in the advocacy work that we conduct, because based on this data in a qualitative and quantitative manner, it's important because we work with human rights, and this should encourage our work following trying to comply with the SDGs. So this portal is really aligned with SDGs, and so it is very important to convey this message. And this is especially important for the child, adolescents, and youth across the world. On the other hand, relying on this data will help us to identify trends, changes, where to direct our efforts in a positive manner, as it was previously mentioned, because if we can identify these changes, we can acknowledge the direction to move forward. And we also need to identify challenges as well in our advocacy work. And from our side, working with the youth and adolescents, we can also assess if we need to change or reflect on our work. So that is why data is also very important and helpful, because it will allow us to identify the direction forward to achieve impact that we want to achieve. Also, this data will allow us to promote advocacy policies more focused on the real needs of the population, because I think that this is one of the most, the reasons why I love my work so much, because I want to bring a change on the child and adolescents, for them to live their lives fully, to get access to their basic human rights, that it is not always the case, and Latin America is a real proof of that. I also believe that having this data will allow us to propose the state, the direction forward, and how we want to do it. So I would like to close by congratulating all of you on this portal. I will, of course, will be an ambassador of this portal, because it's very important and valuable tool. I've been going around, and it is really important. So once again, I will congratulate you, and please remind that data is very important on our advocacy work, and to let ourselves heard all across the world, because it will help us to spread the message on the different challenges that we face as child marriage. So thank you once again, and thanks for the invitation, and I will be, of course, keeping up the portal to share this tool with our partners and donors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fernanda. We really appreciate you joining the panel today. We were with you during the General Assembly and again today, so you have really become our child marriage champion. I'm really glad that you make time to be able to engage with us and to be able to make a call for issues related to child marriage, and now for the portal. So we're counting on you to be our LAC champion for the portal. And I know one of the things you'll soon call for is the language issues, but I hope you see that all your countries, have been included, so colleagues can be able to come to the portal and easily find out their situation, plus those of their neighboring countries. So really appreciate you logging on and sharing your perspectives about the importance of data within this space. Thank you so much, Fernanda.
Thank you so much.
Colleagues, that brings us to the end of the panel session. We're now going to move into a general Q&A session. Thank you so much for those who have been chatting in the chat box. We've been so fortunate. I've looked at the number of countries represented, far and diverse. Nigeria, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uganda, South Sudan are some of the few that I've managed to catch. And I know there's many others that are out there. Really glad, that so many people could be able to log on. We've also seen the questions that you've posted, but are giving a bit more time, colleagues, now. You can either post your question into the Q&A, you can post it into the chat box, or you can put on your camera and put in your audio so we can see you and hear your voice, and put forward any questions that you might have. We will, of course, be accessible to you over time for people to keep coming back and ask questions, especially as you use the portal. But from this morning, are there certain things that have come up that, have struck you? Any questions? I see Claudia's put on her camera. I'm sure Colleen is also going to come on as well. What are some of the things that are on your mind about this, you know, in terms of your programming? We're coming to the end of the year. Many of you are going to be work planning for next year. We'd love to hear your immediate impressions on this and how you think this can be helpful for you.
Nankari, as we wait for colleagues' question, I just wanted to come because there have been a lot of questions and inquiries related to the source of the data, what type of data are included, and I wanted to take a moment just to share some reflection and some information about the underlying data. Obviously, resources like the one that we talked about today are made possible because across the world, countries are investing in data collection. Now, collecting data on child marriage is a complex undertaking. Doing so in a robust and ethically safe manner at a scale that allows us to monitor the situation in countries of different size with different complexity is not easy. So we do every year a process of country consultation as UNICEF in our role as custodian agency for Indicator 5.3. We host a 3-month-long country consultation process to identify valid and reliable sources of data on child marriage. This consultation is done with the national counterparts who have the responsibility for reporting on the Sustainable Development Goal, and every data source that is available undergoes a very strict quality review that is really meant to make sure that the data that is inserted in these databases fulfill the requirement for global monitoring and is of good quality. So it's a 3-month-long process. And it's done to be able to make sure that we do not only include well-known sources of data like the MICS or DHS, but also other national sources that are of good quality and have been generated by the country. Now, of course, there are obviously concerns when we come across any data point. We don't take it for granted. We evaluate the data points for consistency with the indicators, for example, we need to monitor for sampling, for other parameters of data quality, and it's only after this thorough review that we include the data. Now, as UNICEF, again, we have a program of work around strengthening the availability and quality of data on a number of different indicators related to child well-being, including child marriage. And in this capacity, we work with data producers to strengthen their capacity for data collection, to provide them with the necessary resources that is needed to be able to conduct this undertaking, etc. So producing good quality data is not a simple task. So it requires significant investment across many different actors, and UNICEF has this mandate as part of our responsibility as the custodian agency for Indicator 5.3.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for that. I'm seeing people coming back over and over again. I know Claudia and Archana are responding. Colleagues, the site is childmarriagedata.org. It couldn't be simpler. It's very, very clear. And we're going to keep, posting that on all our kind of social media platforms so that you don't forget, childmarriagedata.org. Very simple, very accessible. I'm trying to see questions. From the data portal, will there be any support for supporting data collection capacities by country? Looking at Mozambique, latest reliable data is from 2015, for example. Colleen or Claudia?
Let me start with some general consideration, and then I'm going to give the floor to Colleen for specifically reflecting on the case of Mozambique. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we roll out capacity building for national statistical offices, but also for other data producers and data users as well. In the case of the data producers, our technical assistance and capacity building revolve around the implementation and the scaling up of the appropriate data collection instrument and questionnaire that are available and have been used internationally. Now, in addition to capacity building that takes the place in the forms of workshop, we do direct technical assistance because there is always something that can come up obviously in the field when these data are collected. Before I give the floor to Colleen, I just wanted to take a moment to share some consideration on the recency of data. For as much as we are committed to ending child marriage, and we know that with the right investment we can make a difference, we also need to acknowledge that these are population level measures of child marriage. So in order to see a significant and drastic decline in the prevalence of child marriage, it takes time. Because of course we can generate change, important change at a local level, but for this to translate into a significant change of prevalence at the national level, at the scale of an entire country, is going to obviously take time. Even the countries in the world that have made the fastest progress in reducing child marriage, which include countries, for example, like India, it takes time to be able to see a significant change in the prevalence estimate, again, at the national level. Yeah, so just to say that recency of data is important, but we don't expect child marriage prevalence to change at the national level from 1 year to the next. Yeah, so even in the case of data for child marriage, we recommend data collection every 5 years, 3 to 5 years, because again, collecting this data in a way that is robust, it's a huge undertaking and is extremely expensive. You don't want to invest all the money you have in data collection and you don't have data then for programming, right? And again, if something like collecting data on child marriage is proposed to you as something quick and cheap, you should be able to say no immediately. Because for collecting data on this issue, it's probably going to cost, it's a multi-million-dollar project and it takes time to do it right. So just to say, do not worry too much if we don't have 2023 data, because data within 5 years is good enough to have a sense of how the situation is currently at present. Colleen, over to you if you want to add something.
Thanks, Claudia. I think that's pretty clear. I would just maybe add a reflection on the scope of the data that we'd like the data portal to feature. Again, what we are looking at here is kind of global monitoring data, nationally representative data, and we are able to do a lot with that data. We are able to disaggregate and look at the prevalence by background characteristics of girls and women. We are able to look at some regional disaggregation to give you a more granular picture. But these data don't offer everything that you could ever possibly want to know about child marriage. And the child marriage data portal, I think, as we've designed it particularly for the launch, we're trying to stay focused and do one thing well, right? Which is to give you an overview of how common the practice is, where is it occurring, who's the most affected, and is it declining? Are we on track for meeting the 2030 target? I realize I said do one thing well, and that's already about 5 things. So maybe we were a little ambitious. But there are a lot of questions that the data portal will not be able to answer. And so as you kind of collect your resources to try to answer your questions, we hope that the child marriage data portal will answer some of them, but we very much expect that you will still need to be going to other sources, including research, programmatic evaluations, these types of things to answer other types of questions.
Thanks so much, Colleen. I heard you talking about, data being available at regional level. I see that's amongst the questions that have come in, within the Q&A. Can I get that data at provincial level, at regional level? But the other thing that's also come up is, can I get data by caste, by ethnicity? Can you share about that?
Thank you. So the level to which we are able to provide disaggregated analysis depends on the way in which the data were collected. So if in the context that you're talking about, you have a data source that was conducted at national level, likely through your national government, that included as background characteristics things like, caste, and it was also designed to be representative to the level, the geographic level that you're interested in, then yes, that type of analysis can be done. For whether it would be featured on the child marriage data portal or not, I think at the moment, no, we are not going down to any more granular geographic level at the moment, and we're not featuring caste or ethnicity or anything at the moment, simply because honestly, it's a bit too tricky given that each country is kind of arranged differently and has different sociodemographic kind of characteristics there that would make it difficult. Really, each country would need to be handled as its own custom case. And what we've been able to do here is kind of get this almost template sort of view that allows you to get kind of the bird's eye view for each country and look across many countries. And so we haven't gone the route of customizing each one to its specific context. But this is certainly analysis that that can be done and can be kind of collaborated on bilaterally.
Thanks so much for that, Colleen. So somebody from Pakistan was saying that they couldn't see their country, and then somebody else responded and said, no, here's the link. So great to see that people are moving around the site and are able to identify the countries. But then, Claudia, just want to ask you, what if you do go into the site and you don't see your country? Why would that happen?
Well, if you don't see your country, it's because either the country has not collected the data, or as the data have been collected but they're not of good quality, or the country has not collected the data simply because the issue is not of a significant to be picked up by population level data collection. What do we mean by that? It's a very complex concept, of course, and we do host capacity building for data users to explain all this intricacy behind the data. But let's take the example of France, because somebody mentioned, oh, there is no data for France. In France, the prevalence of child marriage is such that it doesn't justify a national level survey that might cost, again, multi-million dollars type of investment to capture something that affects a small portion of the population. Yeah? When this data, when these phenomena, or like child marriage or any other social phenomena, affects small groups of population, it's not justify investment in data collection at that level, again, because of the investment needed. It doesn't mean that child marriage doesn't exist, but it's probably not at the level to be as high as, for example, 1% of the population in the country. In these cases, of course, we don't expect to see this type of prevalence in the portal because the country does not have a phenomena of such significance to justify data collection at the national level.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Colleagues, I'm looking through the Q&A, trying to see if there's any other additional questions. Please, do come in and share. Thank you so much to all who are also sharing the names of the organizations and the things that the good work that the organizations are doing. It's great to also use these type of webinars to network with each other, understand who's out there and what it is that is being done for child marriage. Any other questions, colleagues, that you think we might have missed out on?
And Kali, I see Faith has her hand up. Perhaps she can come in.
Yes, please come in, Faith.
I think my Zoom is playing up. Actually, I cannot see anything. I cannot, it's really strange. So I don't know how my hand went up, but maybe if it did went up, maybe one of the things to say is that perhaps what would be really useful as we think through, as we update, is to think how people can do their personal analytics within the site so that they can check some of the questions are being raised. And I think that's a feature we can easily do that. And there was a question also from Suzanne, how we are going to incorporate some of the child marriage atlas data and linkages. So I say, yes, Suzanne, we are going to make sure that we collaborate and make sure that we link these data together. So we are all talking to each other. So thank you for that. But I don't know why my hand raised itself. I would say that. But right now I cannot see anything. It's just playing up. I might even be kicked out. So
No.
But I'm here. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Faith. Maybe it's drawing on to you because it knows you're a key ambassador for child marriage, which is very welcome, by the way.
Yeah.
But thanks for also raising that point, Faith, about kind of linkages to other sites and the partnership at large. So Claudia, maybe I can come into you for that about other sites and how we manage as partners within this space for coordinating.
Absolutely, Nankali, and thank you, Faith. The database that UNICEF builds through this country consultation process are made publicly available. So they are available on UNICEF website, and they are also provided to the larger international community through the SDG official databases. So this resource is actually open for everybody to use and incorporate in their different portal. And it's actually important that they do so, because we want all the portals to be synchronized and provide the same type of information, because of course we don't want to confuse those who are looking for data on child marriage. So again, the database that we build over the years, it's been now over 20 years, we've been building the databases together with countries, are publicly available. They are available on data.unicef.org, and they're also provided for the official SDG reporting, and they can be found under the SDG official database.
Thanks so much for that, Claudia. Colleagues, any other questions, clarifications, or Colleen, anything on your mind? How does it feel today, Colleen? This has been so much work, especially for you. We're at the launch. It's the end of the year. How are you feeling?
Oh, thank you, Nankali. We're so excited to finally have it out in the world. We've been, deep in the trenches on developing it for a really long time, and it's lovely to see it out in the world. And we're really excited to see how people use it and what they come back to us with.
Brilliant. Thank you. I need to do a little bit of a check-in. I know I've been feeling excited for the past week, just knowing that this is coming. So, colleagues, we have a few more minutes for questions and answers. So please feel free. I think it's such a great opportunity to be able to all be here within the same space and to have this conversation. So calling on you on any other final questions. Otherwise, we're going to bring this wonderful session to a close.
Maybe on my end, Nankali, I just wanted to take the moment to really reflect on what can we do together to foster the use of this portal. And of course, Nankali is advocating for all of you and all of us to become ambassador of this resource. But we also want to acknowledge that sometimes interpreting data, analyzing data, transforming data into insight, and from insight into action, it takes a group of people. And I wanted to express my gratitude to all those who participated in our capacity building on data interpretation and use. We hosted a number of workshops. We had over 700 applicants to this workshop. And they were instrumental for us in terms of really understanding what type of data needs exist out there. How can we make data more accessible? How can we tell stories? Because at the end of the day, statistics can be a bit dry, can be difficult sometimes to interpret. We need to be able to communicate with data in a way that is really impactful. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank all those who spend time with us. We are used to talk to data people, and it's easy to communicate when we are all have the same background. It becomes more challenging, but also more insightful once we are trying to bridge this gap between the data producers and the data users. So again, this version of the portal is the version 1.0. We will be continue to work and expand on this website, building on the feedback that we will receive along the way. Yeah. At the same time, this portal is not meant to respond to everything and anything you need to know to be able to take action to end child marriage. It's a specific focus, and it's important that we retain the focus, because retaining the focus also allows us to retain the quality of the information that is included. So please get back to us with any feedback that you have, any suggestion on how we can expand. And also keep in mind that we are really talking here about statistical evidence. It's not a place to go for everything and anything you're going to find on child marriage. There are other resources out there that we will link to the website in the resource page, where you can find also answer to your broader questions.
Okay, so Claudia, when the recording is shared for the event, and just to say, I think a number of people have been asking about the presentation, and I saw Archana saying actually we'll share the recording. Will that include a contact of how people can reach to give feedback about the portal?
Yes, we will include the link for the portal, and in there is an opportunity to be in contact with us.
Excellent. All right. So colleagues, we've come to the end of the Q&A, and I'm going to hand over to Claudia to finish off. But Before I hand over, I just want to say thank you very much to our data colleagues for being able, in addition to all the partners out there who are also giving suggestions, sharing ideas, and everybody who's logged on today. We don't take that lightly at all. Colleagues, please let's make use, of this great tool. I know it's come to the end of the year. Many of us are writing our final end of year messages. In less than a month, we'll also be starting our work plans for 2024. I think the information that we have on this portal will be very useful, not only on the practical day-to-day stuff that we're doing, but even the broader advocacy that we're doing, the curiosities that you have around issues related to child marriage. This is the space that you can be able to use. Claudia and I have a lot of discussions about how there's a lot of assets that are out there, but we're not seeing ourselves using it as much as we can. Colleen has spent a lot of time trying to make this as simple and as accessible as possible. And so, colleagues, with all the energy and effort that has been put into here, with 7 years to go to delivering on the 2030 goal, please let's make use of this portal. If there's something that's not working, please provide that feedback. Our intent is to provide, an asset that can be used for you practically on a day-to-day. And if it's not achieving that, we want to be able to know, we want to improve, we want to ensure that we're reaching you with something that really adds value for you. So thanks so much from my side. Thanks to everybody who's made time to do this. We really, really don't take this for granted, especially at the end of the year when everybody is supposed to be writing reports and shutting down systems. Over 100, almost 200 people joined in. And so really much appreciation to you. Thank you so much for everything. Over to you, Claudia.
Thank you, Nankali. Thank you, colleague, for joining us today to mark the release of the new data portal on child marriage. I was inspired by the example of how data were used to foster commitment and action towards ending child marriage, and thank you for participating lively to our panelists, but also to you all through the chat and the Q&A. UNICEF capacity as custodian agency for monitoring progress towards this goal. We look forward to continue to work with member states, with our sister agency, with national statistical offices and partner agencies to gather and analyze the data on the issue of child marriage and shape with all of you a world where girls are assured a brighter future. Through this data portal, the development community can engage in a consolidated effort to assess progress with confidence that the data are reliable. And of course, by increasing the accessibility of data on child marriage and promoting their use among a diverse group of users, the portal can guide actions and mobilize resources. It will also keep the issue of child marriage high on global and national development agendas in the few years left in the Sustainable Development Goal. Let's make good use of these resources. Let's consider it our own collective good. Thank you again for joining these efforts and for being with us today. Goodbye.